In this video, we are going over 5 signs you are having a spiritual awakening. So maybe you've noticed some of these things. Don't worry, it's not a bad thing. In fact, it's a very good thing. Find out what they are coming up next. What's up, guys? This is HeartSpace. My name is Dave, and if you're new to this channel, we create videos and release videos every single day to help you live life more in your way. And so if that sounds good to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell icon so you don't miss any of the new videos that we release. Now, again, today I want to go over 5 signs that you're having a spiritual awakening, that you're starting to become aware of certain things that others are not. And these are not things to be afraid of. These are things to actually be embracing. And so if one of these signs resonates with you, what I want you to do is hit the like button to confirm it. And also let me know in the comments when you hear a sign that resonates with you, which ones resonate with you. So you can keep looking out for them. And so you can just remind yourself that these are not bad things. In fact, this means you're going through an evolution, a transformation. Also, guys, in the comments, I want you to write the affirmation, I am a spiritual being who is wide awake. And again, we do this to rewire your brain. We do this so that you take some action towards this instead of just passively watching it. So put that down in the comments, and we'll start by getting into number 1. We're actually going to go in reverse order. So we're starting with number 5. Let's get into it. So number 5 is a simple one, and it's you're drawn to content like this video. Because the fact of the matter is, if you saw the thumbnail of the video and you knew what it was kind of about, and you were drawn to it like energetically, like, oh, I just get the urge to click on this. I want to find out what these are. That may mean you are starting to go through more of a spiritual awakening, because guess what? If you're not aligned to this kind of content, you will be repelled by it. In the same way that you probably are repelled by certain negative content and other things like that. For example, I'm now more these days repelled by the news because it usually puts a negative lens on everything. In that same way, you'll be drawn to things that are aligned to you. And so if you're drawn to content like this and other creators that are similar to this channel, if you're drawn to teachers that are teaching more spiritual ideas, for example, I'm really drawn to people like Alan Watts, Ram Dass, people of that nature. If that's what you're being drawn to, that type of content, that kind of information, that kind of energy, it is a surefire sign that you are starting to awaken more and more and tap more into that spiritual essence of what you truly are. And my advice to you is just to continue down that path, allow the energy to guide you, and to keep watching content like this so that you can just open your eyes more and more and more. Number 4 is you start having moments of great clarity and awareness. This game of life, a lot of times, it's just about awareness. A lot of people, they poo-poo the spiritual aspects of life, the so-called woo-woo, not because these things don't exist, but because their awareness hasn't expanded to the point to allow this into their life yet. But once you have certain experiences, once you discover certain things, once you have certain aha moments, your expansion, your awareness, I should say, expands. And so if you're getting these just moments of, oh my God, that makes so much sense, or aha, or you have, like this happens a lot to me, and especially did in the past when I was first going through my awakening, I would just have moments where I would stop and something would just start making sense out of nowhere, or I would just hear something, like I'd hear Alan Watts say something, or something would just happen, and it was like I was learning about this thing, but it hadn't connected yet, and I would have this aha moment, or this synchronicity, or this great moment of clarity where I was just like, oh my God. And it might be something even so simple, but I would be like, oh my God, it makes total sense now. If you find yourself having those moments, if you find yourself having more clarity about how things work, about the universe, about how it's applying in your own life, it's a great sign that you are starting to become more spiritually awakened. You are starting to figure out more what everything is about and what you truly are, who you truly are. And so again, just keep at it, and you're going to have more and more of these aha moments. You're going to be led to do things, experience things that are going to lead more to these aha moments, and it's a great thing. Number 3 is a sign some of you may be going through, some may not, but you probably have gone through it at certain points if you've had a spiritual awakening, and it's you're having moments of incredible sadness or a similar emotion, but the difference is you're allowing it. Because the thing is, sadness is a very natural emotion. And it's not bad, but we're taught in our society, we're taught, or conditioned, I should say, to believe that sadness is weakness, or that sadness is something you should not express. And really, the actual emotion, the actual feeling here that we're told we're not supposed to express is vulnerability. We're told that we can't be vulnerable. We can't let people in. We can't express what we're truly going through because we'll look weak, or it means that, especially for men, when it comes to vulnerability, that we're wussies, or we're not manly enough, or whatever it is. But when you can actually be vulnerable and accept it, it is an incredible step toward your spiritual evolution, and what I would actually call being a true masculine or a true feminine, tapping into that divine masculinity and that divine femininity, whichever one you're coming from. So for women, usually femininity, and for men, usually masculinity. But what's incredible about this, and the fact that you're allowing it, is most people resist it, and it leads to so many different problems. But you start to accept what is. You start to accept that this sadness, this vulnerability that you're allowing to release is actually an old story. For me, in moments I've cried, or in moments when I've released something like that through sadness, through tears, through vulnerability, it's been because an old story, an old identity, something from my past is actually releasing. And for those of you who have experienced this, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's actually leaving. And what happens when you resist these emotions, when you resist the opportunity to be vulnerable, when you resist the opportunity to actually feel your sadness, to feel your pain, you are missing out on the opportunity to release something that is trying to come through, that is trying to be released. But if you're someone who is experiencing sadness and allowing it, that is such a huge step towards awakening, towards spiritual growth. So when those things come up, when you feel some sadness, when you feel the pain, don't be afraid to express it, to talk to someone you trust about it, to be honest that you are going through the human condition like everyone else. We're all trying to mask our lives as if we're perfect, or we never go through shit, but we do. And I'm not saying complain about it, but I'm saying allow it so that you can finally release that old story that you are not. You are not your old story. You are not your old identity. That's not what you are. And the more you go on the spiritual journey, the more you'll learn that, especially as you start allowing the sadness, allowing the vulnerability and hurt and pain to come through instead of holding on to it. Number 2 is one of my personal favorites, and something I saw manifest so much in my life when I started to awake. And this is something I just was not at all beforehand. Like maybe in little spurts, maybe I wanted to be, but I wasn't, like for the majority of the time, where now I'm like most of the time I am this, and you're so much more playful. At the end of the day, playfulness is what a lot of this is about. Love and playfulness to me go hand in hand. You look at some of the people who are closest to Source, and they say that children are the ones that have come out of Source most recently. They've come out of the divine, come into physical being, and the reason children are so playful and carefree and so trusting is because they are closest to Source, and Source is playful. Source is love. When you're in a state of love, you'll also notice you're probably in a state of being very playful, of laughing, of not taking things too seriously. And if you find that you are more like that now, you find you're just way more playful and you're more drawn to play. You're more drawn to things that you love. For me, the more I've gone through this awakening, the more I've wanted to do the things that I love, the more I've wanted to just goof around a little bit. For example, with my girlfriend Lily, half the time we're just playing with each other. We're goofing around. We're expressing our creativity. We're having so much fun with each other. We're laughing. We're sharing stories. We're role playing, not in that way, maybe that way, but we're role playing in the sense that we're using these different characters to have fun. And if you're finding that you're being more playful, you're smiling more, you're happier and genuinely laughing and playing and you're carefree in that kind of way, then there's no other way to look at it. You are definitely becoming more spiritually awake because, and I'm not the only one, I've definitely experienced that the more playful you are, the closer to Source you are, the closer you are to what you truly are. We're all taught that it's all fun, it's all work and no play, but it's actually the opposite in my eyes. The play is what will lead to more satisfaction, more fulfillment in your work, in your relationships, in your personal life, whatever it is. And there's a reason for that. And so if you find yourself just more in this playfulness energy, you are becoming more and more awake by the second. And for those of you who are not feeling that, see if you can bring a little more play into your day, doing things you find fun, doing things you find carefree, things that bring you into the moment. And there's so many things you can do to do that. But it's a surefire sign that you are starting to become more awake to what's actually going on. And number one, guys, and this is huge, is you are starting to find things that you once liked. And I say that like this because you liked it through conditioning. You were told to like it. You're actually starting to find those things heavy and not as enjoyable. And you're being drawn to more lighter things. Essentially, you are starting to have more of a perception and experience of energy. So now people who were never really that good for you, maybe put you down, didn't really have your best interests at heart that you may have hung out with, they feel very heavy. You know, there's an energy about them where you're repelled by them, and you're now drawn to people who are good for you, people who support you, people who are actually going to help you along your journey. You're more drawn to doing things that help you along on your spiritual journey. For example, maybe for me, one way this manifested is I stopped drinking, because even the whole time when I was drinking, you know, I was conditioned to like drinking. I was in college, and that's just what you did, and that's how you have fun. You're like, woo, yeah, this is so much fun. But whenever I was truly doing that, and yes, some of the moments may have been fun, but it wasn't because of the alcohol. It was because of the camaraderie. It was because I was hanging out with fun people or whatever it was. You know, when I had a reliance on that, I found that I don't actually like the alcohol. What I truly enjoyed was the camaraderie, was the playfulness like we went over in the last one. And for a lot of people, they think they have to do that in order to become playful. And so for me, one of the biggest things I let go, because it became very heavy, was alcohol, because I realized I don't actually like the taste of it. I don't like that I have to rely on it. I don't like, or did have to rely on it. I don't like the after effect. I don't really like much about it at all. And I've had people who have suffered from alcoholism in my life. I've seen the effects this thing can have, and it's just a conditioned, you know, it's just conditioned into me to accept this just because most people do. But as I started to awake more, as I started to go on the spiritual journey, I started to realize I don't care for it. I don't like it, and I don't need it to do these things I thought I needed it for, like be more social, whatever it is. So if you find you're doing similar things in your life, that these things that were once you thought good or fun, you found are actually heavy, and now you've been moving to things that are more light and more actually playful without needing a crutch, then you're definitely awakening more and more and more. And again, alcohol is just the example I use. There's plenty others I can use. But again, you are starting to become more attuned to frequency and energy and vibration. And so you're able to tell when things are heavy and when things are light. And you are starting to move more towards the things that are light and away from the things that are weighing you down, that are energetic anchors, because they're heavy. And so if you are doing that, it's a surefire sign, again, that you are starting to awaken more and more. Having a sensitivity to energy is always a sign of that, because that's what we are. We're all energy at our core. And when you can just sense the energy of things, when you can sense what's going to be good for you, what's going to be bad, you're listening to that intuitive response. You're starting to move in a way that's going to support your spiritual growth. And all I would say is from that point on, just keep going. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this video. This one's been a fun one for me because, you know, I love talking about these kind of topics of things that are actually helpful, help people awake, help you move further along on this spiritual journey that every single person is on. Every single one of us is on it. We're all in this together, remember. As always, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.